Welcome grade 10. So we're starting today with a brand new topic. The topic is called VAT. Now, maybe you've come across the term VAT before, so I want to leave you to answer the very first question. My question to you today is, what do you know and understand about VAT? Now, I want to give you 2 minutes to quickly jot a few things down on a piece of paper, and please explain to me what you understand with the term VAT. Okay guys, I hope you got at least a few things jotted down on that piece of paper. Now remember, firstly, VAT is a tax. So it's a tax that is levied on all goods sold within South Africa. Now that tax can be referred to as an indirect tax, and I'll go back to indirect taxes now. So know that VAT stands for value added tax, and that our current standard VAT rate today in South Africa is 14%. Now this might change in the near future. The Minister of Finance has got authority to change it when he compiles his yearly budget. But now let's go look at VAT in detail. So firstly, what is VAT? VAT is value added tax, and this is a tax charged on the supply of goods and services by a vendor. Now, very important to remember, not all vendors will charge VAT. Vendors need to register for VAT and this collected VAT from customers on behalf of the South African Revenue Services. So this means all VAT that businesses collect through the selling of their goods and services needs to be paid over to SARS at the end of every second month. Now, I refer to as VAT as an indirect tax. Now, let's quickly go back to your EMS years, last year and the year before, when we looked at all the taxes the government can levy. Firstly, we looked at the direct taxes. Now, remember, direct taxes is directly levied on a person or institution. So, direct taxes will be your pay-as-you-earn. That will be VAT, taxes charged on your salaries. Another form of direct tax will be your company taxes. So companies will pay a certain percentage of all their profits over to SARS, and that percentage currently is 28%. Another form of direct tax will be capital gains taxes, and that's just to give you a few examples of your direct taxes. Now, your indirect taxes, which VAT forms part of, will be your petrol levy or your fuel levy, and then also your sin taxes, all those extra charges on your cigarettes and alcohol. But now today we're going to focus on VAT. So we did look at VAT, and that VAT is actually a tax that the government charges. Now let's quickly look at the purpose for the government charging VAT. Now the big purpose is the government is responsible for paying the following goods and services. Now think of this, if the government does not have money or source of income, how will they pay for these? And it's firstly they'll pay for protection services, so they need to pay the police officers, they need to buy police vehicles, they need to run the police station. Same thing with education, so we need to have teachers, we need school buildings, we need textbooks. Healthcare. The government supplies basic healthcare services. They need to employ nurses and doctors, buy hospital beds, and run and build hospitals. Another thing is social welfare. These are all the grants the government give. Now, hopefully you can remember all the grants from grade 9 and 8. We looked at the old age pension, we looked at child grants, foster grants, we looked at the war veteran grant. So in detail, we looked at all these grants. Now the government needs to create a source of income to pay for all these grants. So they need money to give back to the poor and those in need. Another thing they need money for is infrastructure. So the roads we use, the bridges, all of the infrastructure costs money. Now where will the government get the money? They need to charge VAT. They need to charge tax on salaries. They need to charge a certain tax on companies. Now, again, we're focusing strictly on VAT today, but know that there's different forms of taxes which forms part of the government's revenues, and this VAT is almost the second biggest source of income to the government. Now, let's quickly continue with what you need to know under VAT. Taxes must be paid to the government so that they have money to cover all their expenses. VAT is just another form of tax, just like the companies pay tax, and you, once you're going to get a job, you'll pay certain tax. We call it pay as you earn on your salary. Now let's go and look at who can and who cannot register for VAT. Now, very important to know, normally a business or a company will register to be a VAT vendor. So companies and businesses, even if it's a sole trader, which we're currently busy with, they will go and register when their turnover is more than R1 million. So when their sales accumulate during a year and it's more than R1 million, they need to register. It's compulsory registration. Now, when we have a sole trader or a company and they make less than R1 million. So let's say they make 800,000 for the year, or they make 500,000 Rand for the year. They don't need to register, but they can. And we call this a voluntary registration. So voluntary registration means that they need to have a turnover of more than 50, but less than R1 million. Then they can decide, do I want to or don't I want to register for VAT at SARS. Now remember again, you need to, it's compulsory to register to be a VAT vendor when you have a turnover more than R1 million. Now let's go and see who can't register. If the turnover is less than 50,000 per year, a business may not register for VAT. And this is who can and who cannot register for VAT at SARS. Now let's continue. I'm going to leave you with a few questions. Let's read them together. Number 1, what does VAT stand for? Number 2, who receives the VAT? Number 3, who pays VAT? Number 4, what does SARS stand for? And number 5, who must register for VAT? Now I'm going to give you 3 minutes to answer these 5 questions. Good luck. Okay guys, I hope you listened carefully and that you got all 5 answers correctly. So let's go and look at the very first one. Number 1, what does VAT stand for? And remember, VAT is a source of tax or revenue for the government, and it's value added tax. Hope you got that one right. Now remember, value added tax is an indirect tax, and that companies and businesses will pay all the money they collect from their customers to SARS every 2 months. So they will pay VAT 6 times a year. So SARS will receive 6 times a year from different companies VAT. Now let's go look at number 2. Who receives the VAT? And I just answered that one for you. The answer will be SARS. Now what does SARS stand for? Hopefully you know that. It's the South African Revenue Service. So this is the body that's been set to collect all the taxes from all individuals, either if it's direct taxes or indirect taxes, from the people of South Africa, and that money comes into the government bank account, and that money then can be distributed and used by the government. Let's go look at number 3. Who pays VAT? And this is a tricky one. Who pays VAT? And the answer will be the final consumer. The final consumer will pay tax and all the VAT collected. Now remember, who's the final consumer? There will be different people in a value chain. So there will be value added through a chain, and then every step there will be VAT charged. But all of that VAT will be paid over to SARS in the end by the final consumer, the person using the product. Let's go look at the next one. And we'll go into detail with the value chain. Number 4, what does SARS stand for? And I just said it. It's the South African Revenue Service. And then the very last question, who must register for VAT? And that's a quite easy one. All businesses that sell more than $1 million. They need to register. It's compulsory registration for these businesses. Okay guys, so I'll see you after the ad break. Okay guys, so we looked at key concepts in our very first segment. So let's go back and think back at the rate I told you that is levied at currently in South Africa. I hope you can remember it. I said that all goods and services are levied at 14% VAT. Now, do you think it's fair for everybody to pay 14% on all products? And the answer is no. Remember, there's a big part of our community that still struggles to make ends meet. They need every cent to be spent on the need and the basic needs. So therefore, South African Revenue Service introduced a few products that will be levied at 0%. So we'll have 0-rated items. Then we'll also have those goods that are luxury items, or those items that are not a real necessity, that will be charged at 14%. And then we'll have items that are exempt from VAT. Now, what items will be exempt from VAT? We'll go and look at items exempt from VAT and 0-rated and 14%. But let's go look at all 3 rates quickly. So very first, your standard rate, just like I said, is 14%. And VAT is now calculated at the standard rate of 14%. And as I said before, this rate can be changed at any time by the Minister of Finance. Now, that's your very first one, and that's your standard one. That's the one we'll generally use. But now we also have a 0-rated items group. Now again, the 0-rated items group is for those in need or the very poor, so that they buy items, but they are not charged any taxes on it so that they can use their money to the best of their ability. Now, some goods are charged at 0%, so there's no VAT on these items. This rate can also be changed by the Minister of Finance if the need arises. And also the products that fall under this category can be changed by the Minister of Finance if he feels fit. The nature of the zero-rated goods are for those that are very poor to be able to afford these items. And now the very last grouping that we have under VAT will be the VAT-exempt items. So by law, the following are not subjected to VAT due to other taxes levied or that the government supply these goods. Now, I want to quickly leave you with a few questions. Now, let's look at the very first question. I want you to do number one firstly. List 10 items that will be taxed at 0% VAT. Now guys, I'm going to give you the answer, but let's see if you can get 10 items that fall into this grouping, the 0% grouping. Please be specific in your answer. I'm giving you 3 minutes to complete it. Okay guys, I know you got this one right. Let's go and look at a few items that will be charged at 0% VAT. So here's your answers. Let's go and see. The very first one will be brown bread. Now, why brown bread? Because it's very nutritious. It's better than white bread. And you will see if you go into the shop that brown bread is quite cheaper than white bread. So the very first one, brown bread. But please note, you need to use the word brown. That's why I said be specific in your answer. The next one will be rice, also lentils, maize products, legumes. So legumes will be more or less like chickpeas or a certain type of bean in a tin. Then we have dried beans, and you can see those two with the lentils will be your proteins. Then you have fresh fruit and vegetables. Now, some learners in my class will always ask me, sir, what about that expensive shops with nice fresh fruits and vegetables? Will they also be zero rated with that? And I always say, yes, it's still in raw form. It's still as it is from the farm. But when it's chopped up and peeled, nicely packed in a nice box or packet, then that will be levied because there's been a process added to make it easier for the consumer, and that is not for the poor people. Remember, if a raw product is sold, it will be sold at a certain price. So poor people will try and do the service themselves. So they will chop and peel the fruit themselves to save the money. So they won't have money to buy the already processed fruit, for example. Another thing, cooking oil, eggs again for protein, and canned pilchards. Remember, we all need calcium, so milk and milk powders and certain milk blends will be zero rated. We'll have fresh and frozen vegetables, that's also zero rated. And then the sale of a business entity. So when I sell a business, it will also be at 0% VAT. Now, let's go look at your next question. Your next question will be, list 10 items that will be taxed at the standard VAT rate. And I'm going to give you only 2 minutes for this one. It's an easy one. Good luck. Okay guys, so these are the standard rated items. Now remember, the previous list, the zero rated, that was the basic items that a person needs to survive. So we need maize, we need grains, we need protein, we need fruits and vegetables, we need oils for us to survive. So if we don't have all these nutrients, we won't live a healthy life. Now, these items that I'm going to uncover now is more luxury items. I don't need these items to survive. Now let's go and look at them. The very first one, a vehicle, a car, CDs or DVDs, clothes, shoes, blankets can be an example, cell phones, televisions, radios, any sport equipment, I've put in this one, white bread. Remember, white bread is seen as a luxury. Your takeaways, jewelry, watches, furniture, and electricity. All of these items, guys, we don't need these items to survive, like our zero-rated items. But yes, in the winter we might need a blanket or we might need clothes. That's definitely needed, but there will be VAT charged on them. So what is the standard rate again? The standard rate will be again 14%. And know it. So that when you go and buy a CD and you see this CD is maybe 114 Rand, know that 14 Rand will go to the government and the 100 Rand will go to the shop. And the shop will use the 100, the 14 Rand will be used by the government, and that's how they get a price, including VAT. Now let's go and look at your very last question for this segment. List 5 items that will be excluded from VAT. Now I want to give you 2 minutes to answer this question. Good luck. I know you got more than 5, guys, so let's quickly go and look at the answer. Now remember, before I want to uncover this answer is, remember, VAT exempt means there's other taxes charged on these items, or that these items or services are rented by the government and they won't charge extra for these services or community goods. Let's go and look at the answer. So financial services, that will be financial services from banks or financial institutions. Interest, remember, interest is not a physical good or item or product. It is more or less when you don't pay or when you have an investment and you will get interest. You see, it's not a physical product or service that you're getting, so interest won't have any VAT on it as well. Life assurance, medical schemes, provident fund or pension funds, again, an investment form, we won't have VAT on it. Child care services, educational services, for example, schools, universities, and technicons and colleges, they won't charge VAT because these products or services are VAT exempt. Services provided by NGOs, so non-profits. Passenger transport in South Africa by bus, taxi, or train is also excluded of VAT. Your salaries and wages will be excluded from VAT. Why? Because there's other taxes like pay-as-you-earn charged on it. And then the last one, private sales of personal items. So when I sell my car to my friend, there won't be any VAT on it. Now guys, I know you got more than 5. If you did, and you got all of them right, great. We're going to continue with that after the ad. See you now. Okay guys, so let's continue with VAT. Now, what did we look at? In our previous segment, we looked at the different rates the government used to make VAT as fair as possible. Now remember, we have the standard rate of VAT, which is 14%. Most luxury items will be charged at that rate. Then we have zero-rated items. And remember, zero-rated means it's items that I definitely need for my survival. I need fresh fruits and vegetables. I need dairy, I need milk, eggs, proteins, certain oils. So those items will be charged at 0% rate. And then we have the VAT-exempt items. Now, why VAT-exempt? Because it's not maybe a physical good or service. It might be something like interest or your pension or medical aid. That can't be levied. Or it will be a service maybe rendered by the government or a university. Any further studies and school fees can't be levied at a VAT rate. It's exempt from VAT. Now, remember VAT, value added tax. We're going to now look at how VAT and value is added in a value added chain or process. What we first need to look at is your slide. Let's go and look. VAT is classified as an indirect form of taxation. Now, again, your indirect forms of tax will be your VAT, your import duties, your fuel levy, items that can be pushed onto someone else. So maybe a business will import goods, they will sell it. Who carries the cost of the import duties? You as final consumer. VAT as well. VAT, value is added in the process of making something, but who pays the full amount of VAT at the end? You as individual. So it's indirect, but it is added up in different chains, or it's added into a process. Each one will pay a bit, but in the end, you will pay the full amount. Indirect. We don't really care who you are. You're the consumer. We don't know your name, but you will pay the VAT. The company will get the money from you. So as the final consumer bears the cost of tax. Now, who pays VAT in South Africa? All suppliers of goods and services in the production process will charge VAT and pay the VAT on the value they added over to SARS, but at the end of the process, the final consumer will be charged the total value of VAT, as VAT is included in the selling price or the service price of a good. So again, if you go to the shop, you buy brown bread, remember brown bread, zero rated, there won't be any VAT charged on that bread. But if you go to any shop and you buy white bread, now that shop didn't just appear in the shop. It went through a few stages to become bread. And all those stops where value is added, so value will be added and their tax will be paid over to SARS, but in the end you will pay the full amount that is added in each process. We're going to look at a nice example now. Let's go and look at one. So the value chain approach. VAT may be the fairer system of tax because it doesn't matter who you are. We don't even care who you are. If you buy the product, you will have to pay the VAT on that product. So no person, irrespective of their earnings, is exempt from paying VAT. So if I earn a lot of money and I go and buy a Coke, I will pay VAT. If a person that gets a grant goes and buy a Coke, they need to pay VAT as well. It doesn't matter who they are, they will pay VAT. Now, distribution chains from the raw materials to the final product. For example, if we use white bread as an example, will have a certain amount of VAT to it. So let's go and look at this chain. So let's start at the very first one. I'm going to simplify it a bit. The maize farmer has got a few inputs and they're farming maize. Now they're harvesting it and they will sell it at a price. Now let's say the price is 100 Rand or whatever, but now the VAT that they need to pay is 14 Rand. Now this 14 Rand will go to SARS and the maize farmer will pay that amount to SARS. Now remember, this maize won't just get to the mill. They need to get a transport company to transport all the mealies to the mill. Now, this transport company will also charge a bit of VAT. Now let's say they charge 6 Rand, and this 6 Rand will also go to SARS in the end. Now as you can see, the transport company delivers it to the mill, but now it's more expensive. So the mill will take the mealies and they will make it into flour. So they go through a process, they will sell it for maybe 200 Rand now, and therefore they will charge 28 Rand VAT on this flour. Again, they need to transport it. So the transport company will maybe add again a 6 Rand to the transportation costs. Now what happens after the transport? They're transporting it to the big bakeries now. Now the big bakeries bake a lot of breads. They will charge a certain amount for the bread, and then they'll add VAT on it. So the excluding price plus the VAT, let's say the price of this will be 20 Rand for VAT. They will keep the excluding price. As you can see, the VAT paying for maybe a bunch of white loaf breads will be a lot. Now the big bakeries sell it to the wholesaler. The wholesaler will add their price, and therefore they add value to it, and the VAT they add is 2 Rand, and then they'll sell it to a retailer. Maybe the retailer will add 1 Rand because that's the value they add, and then the amount they'll have to pay to SARS is 1 Rand. Now that's all the amount. So let's go and check it out. So it's 14 Rand VAT added, then they add another 6 Rand for VAT, so it's already 20, then we get another 28, so it's 48, then another 20 is 68, then we get to 70, then to 71. So say we make a big batch of breads, 71 Rand will be paid to SARS over each individual process. Now who pays the 71 Rand? Yes, the company that added the value will pay it over to SARS, but who pays in the end? You as consumer will pay the 71 Rand because the 71 Rand will be added to the selling price. So hopefully you understand the process of, we have a process for each individual product. Every stop, we add value to that product to make it easier for you to buy this item. But the company will pay the tax immediately over to SARS, but you as final consumer will pay the total amount. Hopefully you understand and will remember it. Now let's go over back to a few questions. Number 4, your question number 4 for today will be, place a tick in the correct column for the VAT levied on the item. Now I gave you a list of items and we're going to do 5 items at a time. So let's look at the very first 5 and then you just need to put a tick into the correct column. So let's look at them. Number 1, the vegetables, will it be 0 rated? Will it be standard, 14%, or VAT exempt? School fees, petrol, tin pulchits, and CDs. I'm going to give you a minute to complete the 5. Okay guys, I know you got 5 out of 5. Let's go and look at it. Vegetables, remember, 0 rated items. Why 0 rated? Because I need vegetables to live healthily. I need vegetables to keep me in a good state of mind, give me energy. So I need vegetables to survive. You will see the other 2 columns are blank. School fees will be VAT exempt. Petrol, also VAT exempt. Remember, why is petrol VAT exempt? Because there's other taxes levied onto petrol. Tin pilchards, that will be what? Zero rated. Yes, 100%. I need this protein to survive. And then CDs will be a standard 14%. Now, guys, I hope you got all 5 correct. Now, let's go and look at another 5. Let's read them together. So we have airtime, we have a ticket to a movie, we have eggs, we have milk, and we have beds. Let's do those 5. I'm giving you 1 minute. So guys, when you started with VAT today, you thought, I'm not paying VAT, I'm not paying any taxes to the government. But you're wrong, because I know most students and learners spend a lot of money on airtime, so they do pay at 14%. You can see the other 2 columns are empty, so airtime will be levied at 14%. The same with the ticket to the movie. So if you go to the movie, know that every time you go to the movie, you are generating money for the government, because there's a certain amount of that money going to the government. Now, eggs will be VAT, zero rated items, as milk. Milk will also be charged at 0%. The other columns will be empty. Now, the very last one for these 5, beds. Beds will be charged at 14%. Hopefully, you got all 5 right. Let's go look at the next 5 for you to complete in 5 minutes. The next 5 will be a computer, interest on loans, the medical aid contribution, the salaries, and fruit. Good luck. 1 minute to complete the 5. Good guys, I know you got all 5 right. Let's look at them. So computers will be 14% normally standard. Your interest on loans will be exempt from any VAT. Your medical aid contributions as well, exempt from any VAT. Your salaries as well, exempt from any VAT, because there's other taxes charged on it. And then fruit, 0%, because I need those vitamins to survive. It's a basic need. Let's go look at the last 5 for today. Your garlic bread, your brown bread, your denims, your leather jackets, and your rice. I'm giving you 1 minute to complete them. Let's look at your answers. So garlic bread, 14%. Your brown bread, 0 rated items. Your denims, again, 14%. Clothing, eh? Leather jackets, also 14%. And then rice, remember, 0%. Now, guys, don't get stressed. We didn't use a lot of formulas and calculations and all those things today. Yes, we are still busy with accounting, but this forms the foundation for your grade 11 and grade 12 VAT work. So we are going to go on with VAT in grade 11 and 12, but know these basics. Know the different groupings, your 0 rated, VAT exempt, and standard, and know what it stands for. I hope you'll do well. See you soon. Bye-bye.